Literature is an ethical leap. It is a moral decision, a perilous exercise in constant failure. Literature should have grievance, because there are so many grievances in the world. Perhaps we have stopped ourselves from being invented, from self-realization, by blaming others for our worldlessness. Welcome back to Podcast Station 101, where today I will be your host Yuri Santiago, and in this podcast series, we are going to talk about a book entitled ILUSTRADO by Miguel Sihuko. The book has received awards such as the 2008 Man Asian Literary Prize cover, New York Times Notable Book of 2010, and Filipino Reader's Choice Award. The story is illustrated as a murder mystery and develops into an ambitious exploration of cultural identity, ambition, and artistic purpose. It begins on a clear day in winter. The battered corpse of Crispin Salvador, who in the story was dubbed as the Panther of Philippine Letters, is pulled from Hudson River. Having no signs or traces that he was murdered and was then ruled as a suicide, Miguel, his student and his only remaining friend, was not convinced of what happened. He became determined to discover the cause of Salvador's death and find the manuscript of a book Salvador had been working on for over 20 years, The Bridge Ablaze. With this book, Crispin intended to expose all of the sins that Filipino elites have been continuing to make for generations. The generation-long ties to illegal logging, cryonism, gambling, kidnapping, corruption, and some of their related component sins. Miguel decided to go back to Manila, back to his old life, clubbing with friends, doing some drug activities, while learning some little truths about Crispin Salvador and himself along the way. As the story progressed, Crispin, who was introduced as a dead character, was actually alive, and Miguel was revealed to be dead as he drowned in the Pasig River following a typhoon. It was revealed that it is actually the story Crispin is writing. To understand the sudden tragic death of his previous student, he writes a story that examines what happened on Miguel's last day. In fact, he is trying to understand his life. Miguel's death shakes Crispin and forces him to rethink the past of his life. He decided to go home with his family and the land he had isolated, hoping to reconcile with his daughter whom he betrayed. Despite the premise, ILUSTRADO is not a literary thriller. Instead, it is more demanding in terms of both form and content. By telling him about his trip to Miguel's house, Sihuko sought to write a comprehensive national novel. The rigors of a young democracy in the Philippines and its greedy political class creates a major background in Miguel's quest. It is also one of the great inequality that has experienced both dictatorship and the mass revolution since ancient time and suffers from the value that democracy adds to the interests of the collective rather than the interests of the individual. Sihuko wanted to discuss the reputation of Filipino society at home and abroad, how they acted and lived their lives, and how the rich history of the country has evolved over the years. The novel takes the form of endless bricolage, including stories, interview, excerpt from fictitious texts, emails, text jokes, and blog. It is an intertwined mess of a narrative, bloated collage that seeks to broadly portray the general turmoil of Filipino history and society. This book gives us Filipinos an understanding of what our reality is, how we perceive it, and what it really means to be a real Filipino.